The summer breeze was warm as Ho-Jin walked down the dirt path to her grandmother's house. She carried a small blue backpack filled with her favorite books and drawing supplies. Her older brother Do-young walked behind her, playing a game on his phone. Grandmother Jisoo's house always smells like fresh cookies, Ho-Jin said happily. She was 12 years old and loved visiting her grandmother's house in the countryside. The old wooden house sat on a hill, surrounded by tall pine trees and colorful flowers. Do-young looked up from his phone. "And she always has those sweet rice cakes we like," he added with a smile. At 15, he tried to act cool, but even he couldn't hide his excitement about visiting their grandmother. When they reached the house, Grandmother Jisoo was waiting on the front porch in her favorite rocking chair. Her silver hair was tied in a neat bun, and her eyes sparkled with joy when she saw her grandchildren. "Welcome, my dear ones," she called out, standing up to hug them both. "You've grown so tall since I last saw you." After they had milk and cookies in the kitchen, Ho-Jin asked if she could explore the backyard. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in beautiful orange and pink colors. "Be careful near the lake," Grandmother Jisoo reminded her. There was something different about the way she said it, almost like she was sharing a secret. Ho-Jin nodded and walked through the back garden. The old lake had always been there, peaceful and quiet behind the house. But today, something was different. As the sky grew darker, Ho-Jin noticed a soft blue light coming from the water. At first, she thought it was just the reflection of the sky, but the light moved in strange patterns. It looked like someone was drawing with light under the water. "Do-young," she called out to her brother, who was sitting on the back porch. "Come look at this." Do-young walked over, still looking at his phone. "What is it?" "The lake is glowing." Ho-Jin pointed at the water. Do-young finally looked up. His eyes went wide when he saw the beautiful patterns of light dancing across the lake's surface. The lights moved like they were alive, making shapes that looked like stars and flowers. "It's probably just some algae," Do-young said, trying to sound smart. "Some algae glow in the dark. I learned about it in science class." But Ho-Jin wasn't so sure. The lights seemed to move with purpose, almost like they were trying to tell a story. When she waved her hand over the water, the lights followed her movement, creating new patterns. "Grandmother," Ho-Jin called out. "Can you come see this?" Grandmother Jisoo walked slowly down to the lake. When she saw the glowing patterns, she didn't look surprised. Instead, she smiled that special smile she had when she was about to tell them an interesting story. "Ah," she said softly, "the lake is awake." "Awake?" Ho-Jin and Do-young asked at the same time. Their grandmother sat down on an old wooden bench near the water's edge. The blue lights danced more brightly, as if they were happy to see her. "This lake," Grandmother Jisoo said, "is very special. It has been here longer than our house, longer than our family, longer than anyone can remember." She reached down and touched the water gently. The lights swirled around her fingers like tiny glowing fish. "But it's just water," Do-young said, though he couldn't take his eyes off the beautiful display. Grandmother Jisoo's eyes twinkled. Sometimes the most magical things look very simple on the outside. She stood up and straightened her dress. "It's getting late now. Tomorrow, if you're interested, I'll tell you more about our special lake." As they walked back to the house, Ho-Jin looked over her shoulder at the lake. For a moment, she thought she saw a face in the glowing patterns, a young face, not much older than her own. But when she blinked, it was gone. That night, as Ho-Jin lay in bed, she could still see the beautiful blue lights when she closed her eyes. She fell asleep wondering what other secrets the lake might be hiding, and why her grandmother's smile had seemed so mysterious. The next evening, Ho-Jin went back to the lake. She carried 5 smooth, flat stones in her pocket. Her mother had taught her how to skip stones across water last summer, and she had gotten quite good at it. The sun was setting again, painting the sky in soft purple colors. Ho-Jin waited patiently for the blue lights to appear in the water. Soon enough, tiny spots of light began to dance beneath the surface. She took out one of her stones and threw it across the lake. The stone bounced 3 times on the water, but instead of the usual splash sounds, each bounce made a musical note, like someone playing a piano. Asterisk ping, 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 asterisk. He-Jin's eyes grew wide. She quickly threw another stone. This time, the notes were different, higher and lighter, like bells ringing. Asterisk ting, 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 ting asterisk. Do you like music too? A soft voice asked. He-Jin jumped and looked around. No one was there, but when she looked at her reflection in the water, she saw another face next to hers. It was a girl about her age, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Who are you? He-Jin asked. She wasn't scared, just surprised. My name is Mi-Ray, the reflection said. I've been watching you and your brother since yesterday. He-Jin sat down by the water's edge. The blue lights gathered around her reflection, and Mi-Ray's, making a soft, glowing circle. Are you inside the lake? He-Jin asked. Mi-Ray laughed. Her laugh sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Not exactly. I'm from somewhere else, somewhere very far away. This lake is like a window between my world and yours. He-Jin threw another stone across the water. This time, the musical notes formed a simple tune. In my world, Mi-Ray said, we use music to talk to each other. These lakes are special places where our worlds can meet. There are many lakes like this one across the universe. Is that why Grandmother Jisoo says this lake is special? He-Jin asked. Your grandmother is very wise. Mi-Ray smiled. She knows many things about the lake. When she was your age, she used to talk to my mother through the water. He-Jin was about to ask another question when she heard footsteps behind her. It was Do-Young, coming to call her for dinner. He-Jin, who are you talking to? He asked, looking around the empty lake shore. Look in the water. He-Jin said excitedly. There's a girl named Mi-Ray, and the lake makes music. Do-Young walked over and looked at the water, but Mi-Ray's reflection was gone. Only the blue lights remained, dancing quietly beneath the surface. I don't see anyone, Do-Young said. Maybe you're just tired. He-Jin felt disappointed, but then she saw Mi-Ray's reflection appear for just a second, giving her a quick wink before disappearing again. At dinner, Grandmother Jisoo noticed that He-Jin was quieter than usual. Did you learn anything interesting at the lake today? She asked, passing He-Jin a bowl of warm soup. I met someone named Mi-Ray. He-Jin said softly. She said she knows you. Grandmother Jisoo's eyes sparkled. Ah, so the lake has chosen to share its music with you too. But I didn't see anyone, Do-Young said, looking confused. Some people can see the lake's magic more easily than others, Grandmother Jisoo explained. He-Jin, tomorrow I will tell you about the first time I heard the lake's music. But for now, eat your soup before it gets cold. That night, He-Jin lay in bed listening to the wind outside her window. It seemed to carry faint musical notes, like echoes of the lake's songs. She wondered what other magical things she would discover, and why the lake had chosen to show its secrets to her. Just before she fell asleep, she heard a distant melody floating through her window. It sounded like Mi-Ray's laugh, carried on the night breeze, promising more wonderful discoveries to come. The next morning, Grandmother Jisoo took He-Jin and Do-Young to her special garden room. It was a small room with glass walls and a glass ceiling, filled with plants and comfortable cushions. Through the glass roof, they could see the blue sky and passing clouds. This is where I come to think about the lake's mysteries, Grandmother Jisoo said, sitting down on her favorite cushion. She poured hot tea into 3 cups decorated with star patterns. Grandmother, please tell us about the lake, He-Jin said eagerly. Even Do-Young put away his phone, interested in what their grandmother would say. The story of the lake, Grandmother Jisoo began, is also the story of the stars. She pointed up through the glass ceiling. Many years ago, when I was a young girl like you, Hojin, I discovered that our lake was special. But I didn't just hear music like you did. I saw maps in the water. Maps? Du Young asked, leaning forward. Yes, maps of the stars, their grandmother continued. The patterns in the water matched the patterns in the night sky. But they showed more than what we can see from Earth. They showed other worlds, other places where beings like Mira live. Hajin remembered the strange patterns she had seen in the lake. Is that why the lights make such beautiful shades? Grandmother Jisoo nodded. The lake is like a doorway between Earth and advanced civilizations among the stars. The music you hear, Hujin, is their way of talking to us. It's a language that everyone can understand, no matter what world they come from. She reached for an old book on a nearby shelf. The cover was made of soft blue leather that seemed to shimmer like the lake's surface. When she opened it, Hujin and Du Young saw beautiful drawings of star patterns and musical notes. I drew these when I was young, Grandmother Jisoo explained. Each pattern in the lake is connected to a different place in space. The music helps us find these connections. It's like a map and a key at the same time. But why haven't other people discovered this? Du Young asked. He was starting to believe, but still had questions. The lake chooses who can see its magic, their grandmother said. It looks for people with open hearts and minds. People who are ready to understand that we are not alone in this vast universe. She turned a page in her book, showing a drawing of the lake at night. In the drawing, lines of light connected the water to different stars in the sky. Long ago, she continued, beings from other worlds helped our ancestors build these special lakes. They wanted to create ways for different civilizations to talk to each other and share knowledge. The lakes are like bridges between worlds. Is that why Mira can appear in the water? Hejin asked. Yes, Grandmother Jisoo smiled. The lake's water can carry images, sounds, and even feelings across great distances. It uses the same patterns we see in the stars to make these connections. Do Young looked thoughtful. So when Hujin skipped stones and hears music, she is playing the lake like an instrument, their grandmother finished. Each ripple travels through space, carrying her music to other worlds. And sometimes, like with Myray, they send music back to us. As if to prove her point, soft musical notes floated in through the open window. The plants in the garden room seemed to sway gently to the melody. The lake is singing to us now, Grandmother Jisoo said softly. It's happy that you are learning its secrets. Hajin and Du Young sat quietly, listening to the beautiful music. Through the glass ceiling, they could see the morning stars fading in the bright sky. Now they knew that those distant lights weren't just stars. They were windows to other worlds, connected to Earth through their grandmother's magical lake. 1 week after learning about the lake's connection to the stars, Hojin noticed something wrong. The blue lights in the water were getting dimmer. Even the musical notes from her skipping stones sounded weaker, like a radio losing its signal. She found Myray's reflection in the water, but it looked faint and unclear. Myray's usual bright smile seemed worried. The lake is sick, Myray said softly. Her voice sounded distant, like it was coming from very far away. It's happening to many lakes like this one across your planet. Hajin sat down by the water's edge. What's making it sick? Look, Myray said, pointing to something floating in the water. Hajin saw plastic bags and empty bottles that someone had thrown into the lake. The water near them looked darker, with fewer lights. The lake's magic comes from clean water and healthy nature, Myray explained. But humans have been putting harmful things in the water. They've also cut down many trees around other magical lakes. Without trees to protect them, the lakes are losing their power. Do Young, who had started visiting the lake more often since learning its secrets, arrived with his school backpack. He had been doing research about lakes and water pollution for his science project. It's not just our lake, he said, showing Hejin his notebook. Lakes and rivers everywhere are getting polluted. People throw trash in the water and factories dump chemicals. The rain carries dirty stuff from cities into the water too. Myre's reflection nodded sadly. These lakes are very old and very special. They form a network across the galaxy, like a web connecting different worlds. But when one lake gets sick, it affects all the others. Many lakes like this one have already lost their magic. Hajin felt tears in her eyes. What happens if all the lakes lose their magic? Then the bridge between our worlds will break, Myre said. We won't be able to talk to each other anymore. All the knowledge and friendship between different worlds will be lost. Just then, Grandmother Jisoo came down to the lake. She carried her blue book and looked serious. I've been watching the lake's lights get weaker, she said. When I was young, the lights were so bright they lit up the whole shore at night. Now they're fading. She opened her book to show them old drawings of the lake. In the pictures, the water glowed with strong, bright lights that reached up to the stars like bridges of light. Other grandmothers who watch over lakes like ours have been sending warnings, she continued. The magic is fading in many places. If we don't help soon, it might disappear forever. Hajin looked at the lake with determination. There must be something we can do. We can't let the magic die. Myre's reflection brightened a little. There is a way, she said, but it will take many people working together. We need to clean the lakes and protect them. We need to teach others about how special these places are. I can talk about it in my science project, Du Young offered. Maybe if people understand how important clean water is, they'll help protect it. Grandmother Jisoo smiled at her grandchildren. Yes, that's a good start. But there's more we need to learn. There are ancient ways to help the lake heal, combining Earth's old knowledge with the wisdom from other worlds. As they talked, Hojin noticed the blue lights in the water pulse slightly brighter, like the lake was listening to their plans and gaining hope. She made a promise to herself that she would find a way to save this magical place, no matter what it took. Early one morning, Hojin and Du Young went to the lake to start cleaning it. They brought bags for collecting trash and wore thick gloves to protect their hands. As they worked, they heard footsteps on the path behind them. An old man stood there, watching them with kind eyes. He wore simple clothes and carried a wooden staff carved with star patterns. His white hair was neatly tied back, and he had a gentle smile that reminded them of their grandmother. I am Elder Sunwoo, he said in a warm voice. I have been watching over this lake for many years. Grandmother Jisoo came down the path and bowed respectfully to the elder. Children, she said, Elder Sunwoo is part of an ancient group that has protected the magical lakes for hundreds of years. We are called the Lake Guardians. Elder Sunwoo explained. We keep the old knowledge about how to care for these special places. Your grandmother was one of our finest students when she was young. Hajin looked at her grandmother with surprise. She had never known this about her. Elder Sunwoo walked to the water's edge and touched the surface with his staff. The lake's blue lights gathered around it, making the carved stars glow. The lake's magic is very old, he said. It combines the wisdom of Earth with knowledge from the stars. To help it heal, you must learn both. He showed them how to test the water's health using both modern tools and ancient methods. He had special strips of paper that changed color to show if the water was clean or dirty. He also taught them to listen to the lake's music. Clear notes meant healthy water, while flat or dull sounds meant the water needed help. Our ancestors learned these things from visitors like Myre. Elder Sunwoo explained. They shared their science with us, and we mixed it with our understanding of nature. Both are important. He taught Hojin and Du Young special words to say while cleaning the lake. These words were very old, passed down through many generations of lake guardians. When they spoke these words, the blue lights in the water danced more brightly. The lakes respond to care and respect. Elder Sunwoo said, the more you show them love, the stronger their magic becomes. He showed them how to plant special water plants that would help clean the lake naturally. These plants had been grown from seeds that were kept safe by the lake guardians for hundreds of years. But the most important thing, Elder Sunwoo said, is to teach others. The lakes need more guardians now than ever before. As they worked, Mei Rei's reflection appeared in the water. Elder Sunwoo smiled and bowed to her, showing that he could see her too. The Star People and the Lake Guardians have worked together for a very long time, he said. We help keep the connection between our worlds strong. By the end of the morning, the part of the lake they had cleaned was glowing more brightly. The music from the water sounded clearer and stronger. You have made a good start, Elder Sunwoo said, but there is much more to learn. Will you accept the responsibility of becoming lake guardians yourselves? He Jin and Du Young looked at each other, then at their grandmother. She nodded encouragingly. Yes, they said together. They knew this was the beginning of something very important. Elder Sunwoo smiled. Then tomorrow, we will begin your real training. The lake has chosen you, just as it chose your grandmother many years ago. Now you will learn its deepest secrets. Elder Sunwoo kept his promise. The next day, he began teaching He Jin and Du Young about the lake's music. He brought 2 special flutes made from bamboo that grew near magical lakes. Music is a language that all beings understand, Elder Sunwoo explained. When we play these flutes near the lake, we are talking to other worlds. He showed them how to play simple notes on the flutes. When they played, the blue lights in the lake moved in patterns that matched their music. The water itself seemed to sing back to them. Mei Rei appeared in the water, and this time she was not alone. Other young faces from different worlds joined her, each one glowing with a different colored light. They smiled and waved at He Jin and Du Young. They are watching from their own lakes, Mei Rei explained. They want to join our song. Elder Sunwoo nodded. This is how the lakes have always worked together. Each lake adds its own music to create something bigger and more beautiful. As He Jin played her flute, she heard answering notes coming from the water. Du Young joined in, and soon they were making music with beings from across the galaxy. The lake glowed brighter with each note. The music helps the lake heal, Elder Sunwoo said. It reminds the water of its connection to other worlds. Word spread through the village about the strange, beautiful music coming from the lake. Other children came to watch. They saw the lights and heard the magical sounds. Soon, they wanted to learn too. Grandmother Jisoo brought more bamboo flutes from her house. These belonged to other lake guardians long ago, she said. They have been waiting for new musicians. The children from the village learned quickly. Each one found their own special way to play with the lake's magic. Some used flutes, others tapped stones on the water to make musical ripples. A few sang songs that made the lights dance. Together, they created music unlike anything heard before on Earth. It was a mixture of Earth's songs and melodies from other worlds. The lake's glow grew stronger each day as more children joined in. One evening, as the sun was setting, Elder Sunwoo gathered everyone around the lake. Tonight, he said, we will play the Song of Connection. It is an ancient melody that strengthens the bridges between worlds. The children took their places around the lake. He Jin and Du Young stood near Grandmother Jisoo. Mei Rei and her friends washed from the water, ready to join in. When Elder Sunwoo raised his hand, they all began to play. The music started softly, like a whisper, then it grew stronger. The lake's lights rose up like gentle waves, reaching toward the first stars appearing in the evening sky. Other magical lakes across Earth joined in. Elder Sunwoo could feel their music connecting with their own. Soon, lakes on distant worlds added their voices too. The galaxy itself seemed to sing with them. The music filled the air with hope. Each note made the lake's magic stronger. Each song helped heal the connection between worlds that had almost been lost. This is how we will save the lakes, Elder Sunwoo said quietly. Not alone, but together. The music reminds us that we are all connected, no matter which world we call home. As the symphony continued, He Jin saw tears of joy in her grandmother's eyes. The lake they all loved was coming back to life, one song at a time. As summer went on, the lake grew stronger. Its blue lights shone brightly again, and its music rang clear and true. The daily songs from He Jin, Du Young, and the other children had helped heal its magic. One special evening, Mireille appeared in the water with exciting news. Her reflection was clearer than ever before, almost as if she was standing right there with them. "The connection between our worlds is very strong now," Mireille said happily. "Strong enough for something amazing. Would you like to visit my world?" He-Jin and Du-Young looked at each other in surprise. Elder Sunwoo and grandmother Jisoo stood nearby, watching quietly. "Is that possible?" He-Jin asked. Mireille nodded. "When the lake's magic is strong enough, it can create a bridge that people can actually cross. You could come visit my home, see the 3 moons in our sky, and meet other children who protect lakes like yours." Do-Young looked excited but uncertain. "How long would we stay?" "Time works differently between our worlds," Mireille explained. "You could stay for what feels like weeks, but when you return, only a day would have passed here." Grandmother Jisoo stepped forward. "I knew this moment would come," she said softly. She opened her blue book to show them a drawing she had made long ago. It showed a path of light rising from the lake up to the stars. "When I was your age," she told them, "I was offered the same choice. The lake's magic was strong then, and I had the chance to visit other worlds." "Did you go?" He-Jin asked. Their grandmother shook her head. "I chose to stay and protect our lake. Someone needed to keep its magic alive for future generations." She smiled at her grandchildren. "But your choice doesn't have to be the same as mine." Elder Sunwoo touched the lake's surface with his staff. "Every lake guardian faces this decision when they are ready. You have learned our ancient ways and helped heal the lake. Now you must choose your path." He-Jin looked at the lake thoughtfully. "If we go, what happens to our lake?" "The other children have learned to play its music," Elder Sunwoo said. "They can help protect it. But remember, choosing to stay is just as noble as choosing to explore." Do-Young watched the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. "Could we visit sometimes, even if we stay here?" Mireille's face brightened. "Of course. Once you learn how to cross between worlds, you can do it again when the lake's magic is strong. You wouldn't have to choose just one world forever." Grandmother Jisoo put her arms around her grandchildren. "Take time to think about it," she said. "Listen to your hearts. The right choice is the one that feels true to you." That night, He-Jin and Du-Young sat on their grandmother's porch, looking at the lake glowing in the darkness. They thought about all they had learned and all they could still discover. "Whatever you choose," Mireille's voice drifted up from the lake, "our friendship will remain. The lake's music connects us, no matter which side of the bridge we stand on." The siblings watched shooting stars streak across the sky, knowing that some of them might be worlds they could visit. They had until morning to make their decision, but somehow, in their hearts, they were already beginning to know what they would choose. Morning came with a gentle sunrise. He-Jin and Du-Young walked to the lake where everyone waited to hear their decision. Elder Sunwoo, Grandmother Jisoo, the village children, and Mireille's reflection in the water all watched them quietly. "We have made our choice," He-Jin said, holding her brother's hand. "We want to help build something new." Do-Young nodded and continued. "Instead of choosing between worlds, we want to make it easier for everyone to share the lake's magic." Their grandmother's eyes sparkled with pride. She knew her grandchildren had thought carefully about their decision. "We want to create a school," He-Jin explained. "A place where children from Earth can learn about the lake's magic, and where we can learn from children of other worlds too." Mireille's face lit up with joy. "A school of 2 worlds. We could learn from each other every day." Elder Sunwoo stepped forward, leaning on his carved staff. "This is a wise choice," he said. "In ancient times, there were many such places of learning near the magical lakes. Perhaps it is time to bring them back." Over the next few months, He-Jin and Du-Young worked hard to make their dream come true. They cleaned and fixed up an old building near the lake. Grandmother Jisoo helped them gather old books and knowledge from other lake guardians. The village children came every day after their regular school. They learned how to play the lake's music and how to care for its waters. Through the lake's magic, children from Mirai's world taught them about the stars and shared stories from distant places. Sometimes, when the lake's magic was strongest, He-Jin and Du-Young did visit Mirai's world. They brought back new songs and knowledge to share with their students, but they always returned home, knowing they had made the right choice. Other magical lakes around Earth heard about their school. Soon, more children came to learn. Each new student added their own special music to the lake's symphony. The magic grew stronger with every new voice that joined in. One evening, as the stars began to appear, Elder Sunwoo gathered everyone at the lake's edge. "Look," he said, pointing to the water. The lake's surface was filled with reflections, not just of their own world, but of many others. Children from across the galaxy smiled and waved at each other through the magical waters. The lake had become a window through which many worlds could meet and learn from each other. "You have done more than save one lake," Elder Sunwoo told He-Jin and Du-Young. "You have shown us a new way to keep the old magic alive." Grandmother Jisoo added her own drawings of the school to her blue book. "Sometimes the best choice," she said, "is not to pick one path or another, but to build a bridge between them." The lake's music played softly in the background as the children from different worlds shared their songs and stories. The blue lights danced in harmony with lights of many colors, creating patterns more beautiful than any single world could make alone. He-Jin looked at her brother, then at Mirai's smiling reflection, and finally at all the young faces gathered around the lake. She knew that this was just the beginning. The magic would keep growing, one song and one story at a time, building bridges between worlds that would last for generations to come.